So guys, before we get started, don't forget we do have that amazing discount code thanks to Tier 0 Games going on right now. And all you have to do is put in ZWGames5 to get 5% discount on your total order at tier0games.com. The links will be in the description below. What's up YouTube, Dad here from Zephyr Games, bringing you another deck straight out of Rising Rampage, and that is of course Marincess. Now Marincess are a brand new kind of Cyverse water art type, and we get a second lot of support in Chaos Impact, which is the next set to come out following this. However, for now, this deck actually synergizes very, very well with Toads, or Frogs, and Totally Awesome. On top of that, they actually have their own personal art type Impermanence, and a lot of other kind of cool cards that have come out in the set that really, really help this deck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the profile, show you what we've got, explain to you what each card does and why we play the ratios that we do, and then kind of go through any questions that you might have, so put them in the comments down below. So we'll start off with the main deck, and we play triple Marincess Seahorse. This is obviously the main card in the set, did also come as prismatic rare as well, so if you're one of the lucky guys or girls that was able to pick one of them up. Other than that, it is a nice cheap Ultra. I thought it was going to be the high value Ultra of the set, but it's actually only sitting at around £5 to £10 at maximum. And the reason that is you can special summon this card from your hand to a zone a Marincess, or Marincess, however you'd like to pronounce it, link monster points to. You can only special summon a Marincess Seahorse once per turn this way. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard, special summon one water monster from your hand to a zone a Marincess link monster points to. Only use this effect once per turn. So, because it's a water monster, you can actually summon any of your Toads to a zone a link monster or a Marincess link monster points to. We've then got triple Marincess Sea Star. You can send this card from the hand to the graveyard, then target one Marincess monster you control. It gains 800 attack until the end of this turn. You can only use this effect of Marincess Sea Star up to twice per turn. Now the reason we max out on this one is purely because it is the only other normal summon Marincess, or the only other main deck Marincess monster we have. Now the link monsters don't actually, apart from the link one, don't require specific Marincess monsters, they just require water monsters, but we do need these to start the link one plays off, and then we can start climbing from there. Next up, we do play 2 Sea Archiver. It's a Cyverse, and if a monster is normal or special summon to a zone a link monster points to, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from the graveyard if it was there, or hand if not, but banish it when it leaves the field. So it's a nice additional extender, and especially a water one. So if you can get a monster to the link 1 zone, you then get to special summon this card, bring this down, and you've gone from a link 1 to a link 3 instantly, and that gets you straight into the Marbled Rock. So you can get to extend your plays a little bit further than that. The one thing to also mention about Marincess Sea Star is it is a level 2 as well, which is very, very good for your Toad plays. Speaking of the Toads, we play triple Swap Frog. This is obviously the main important frog. You can special summon this card from hand by discarding one other water monster. When this card is summoned, send one level 2 or lower aqua water monster from your deck to the graveyard, so you're going to be sending your other Toads. And then once per turn, you can return one monster you control to the hand. You can normal summon one frog monster during your main phase this turn, except himself, in addition to your normal summon or set. So obviously the way the combo or the plays would kind of go is you normal summon one of your Marincess. Ideally you want to be normal summoning this one. This one then turns into the link 1. You can then use the Marincess Seahorse to be special summoned to a zone it points to, and then if you wanted to, you could use a Swap Frog to get the additional special summon off of that, and then straight away you've got the ability to go into a link 3. By the time you've done that, your Swap Frog's in the graveyard. You then get to start looping it with your Ronin Toadin. There you go, triple of that. Banish one frog monster from the graveyard and then special summon this card. So that's when you can start looping it. Just before you know it, you're link climbing up to the link 3 Marincess, which allows you to play the trap card from hand. Ideally, you want the Marincess link 2 at minimum, because that is where all the effects kick in, and we'll explain to that when we get to it. And then we've got triple Duke Frog. So while it is on the field, monsters your opponent control cannot target monsters for attacks except this one. So this also protects all your Marincess cards as well. That's why this Toad engine is so important in this deck, is it can actually protect your lower levels or your weaker Marincess. So the whole idea is you use the Toads for the standard plays of getting into Totally Awesome and providing the loops from the graveyard and the protection through Duke Frog. You then use the Marincess to activate the spells, to activate the traps from hand, or just perform a full-on blanket negation to your opponent, which is very, very important. We've then got triple signet mining. Now this offers two abilities in the sense that it can actually set up your graveyard of your frogs, and then of course it gets to search out any of your Marincess cards. So pretty much you have 6 seahorses or 6 of your sea star in the deck, and it's very, very good to kind of push your plays further forward that way. If you really wanted to, you could search out your Sea Archiver as well. Moving on, we've got Triple Call by the Grave. You want your Toad effect to go off without having to use Toad where able, and then you want to make sure that all your search effects, especially Silent Mining, are actually active and resolved, because the last thing you need is to be a -2 when you're playing the Cyverse Mining. Moving on, I do play a nice little techie choice, and that is 2 Burial from a Different Dimension, purely because Ronin Toading isn't a hard once per turn. It's not even a soft once per turn, to be honest. So the whole reason I'm playing this is because you do banish the Marincess level 3. You do also banish all of the frogs. So to be able to give you a bit of recurrence, you can play Burial from a Different Dimension to quick play them and then loop the frogs a little bit more. Because we've got more generic water monsters to play around with, you can actually just link climb a lot quicker, and then bring back the frogs and make a Toad, if not 2 Toads, which can always cause your opponent issues. If you don't want to play Burial from a Different Dimension, you can take these out for either Salvage, which targets 2 water monsters in your graveyard with 1500 or less attack, which is pretty much all your monsters, and you get to add them back to the hand, which is very, very good. The other one, it has escaped my mind, but it's the water one where you reveal 2 water monsters in your hand, put them back into the deck and draw 3 cards. I don't know why that's just, like, I had the name on the end of my tongue and that's just gone. But anyway, they're the couple of other options that you can use to play around with those 2 slots. For the last 2 cards, we played 1 Monster Reborn and 1 Foolish Burial. Monster Reborn and a Toad is always going to be fun. And then Foolish Burial to set up your grave for either a Marincess, which is a little bit slow, of the Seahorse, or ideally you want to be setting up a Toad in your graveyard so that you can use and abuse Ronin quite easily. Moving on to the traps, we do play Triple Trap Trick. Now the reason we play Triple Trap Trick is there are some amazing traps in this lineup. I'm going to save the brand new ones for last. But we're just going to go with a small Paleozoic engine, and that is 2 Paleozoic Canadia. This one can actually be dropped down to 1 because it's all about Book of Mooning cards, and it's not as effective against Link monsters. We've then got 2 Olenoids, again pops a back row. Now what I would suggest is you could, if you wanted to, get rid of the Canadias and actually bump up your Olenoids to 3 and your Paleozoic Dynamiscus to 3 as well. So the best thing about this one is it's just discard 1 card. So again, you get to set up your graveyard for any of your Marincess or of course frog players. Moving on to the brand new trap cards, we do play 2 White Howling. I love this card. I think this card is so good. So if you control a water monster outright, you target 1 spell in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, and if you do, for the rest of this turn, negate all spell effects your opponent control on your opponent's field. So obviously the downside of this is they need to have a spell in the graveyard. The plus side is they only need to have a spell in the graveyard, just any spell. So for example, just off the bat, if they're playing True Draco, and if they go Terraforming, you go, yeah, cool, that's fine. Terraforming resolves. On resolution of Terraforming, chain White Howling. White Howling, banish the Terraforming. I know it's obviously at 1, but any kind of spell, just as an example. Chain White Howling, banish the Terraforming. They now no longer can use Diagram that turn, they can't use the Heritage that turn, and they can't use the Phoenix that turn. So they're really in a lot of trouble already. Putting it into against Thunder Dragons is not as good, but just being able to, they play Second's Light, you then chain this, banish that Second's Light so they don't get the reshuffle. After that, it's not real useful for you. Orcust, you need to kind of get the field spell. It's ideal against any deck that uses search cards, and that's where you can really, really hurt and hinder them the best. Last up for the traps, we play 2 Marincess Wave. And now the Marincess Wave is the brand new trap card, which is kind of like their own impermanence. So if you control a Marincess or Marincess Link monster, target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, negate that face-up monster's effect until the end of this turn. Then if you control a Link 2 or higher Marincess monster, all face-up monsters you currently control are unaffected by your opponent's card effects. That's all monsters outright, so it even protects your Toads. Amazing. And then if you control a Link 3 or higher Marincess monster, you can activate this card from the hand, so it means if your opponent wants to Twin Twist you or MST you, or even Denko you, you can still actually cause them a heck of a lot of issues. So it's very, very good and powerful, and it's just so easy to get into the Marincess. I can show you a little combo at the end. I've not played this deck a huge amount to be very like full-on confident with the combos, but I can show you just kind of like a standard play that I would make off the top of my head that will get you exactly where you need to go with your board. So speaking of which, moving on to the extra deck, we play 2 of the Marincess Marbled Rock. This is the link free. You can play this at 1 if you want, but it is still very, very powerful. So you get to target 1 Marincess card in your graveyard, except itself, add it to your hand. Only use the effect once per turn. Once per turn, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can send 1 Marincess monster from your hand to the graveyard. For that battle, monsters cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no battle damage. So it gives you a lot of protection there. We then play 2 Marincess Coral Anemone. 2 water monsters, so it is generic. And you can target 1 water monster with 15 or less attack in your graveyard, special summon it to a zone this card points to. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except water monsters, not an issue. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target 1 Marincess card in your graveyard or Marincess card in your graveyard, accept itself and add it to your hand. Only use each effect once per turn. So the whole idea is you can go into this quite easily. You've already got a link to on board, so the trap is now live. You'd have to set it, so you obviously can't play it from hand. But you can then summon back the Toad or Swap Frog. Swap Frog can then dump 1, that can then mean that Ronin Toad is now active, so straight away you go into your Toad. If you're then able to extend a little bit further, you can go to link free on the other zone, and then you should be able to extend from the graveyard using the Swap Frog and the Toads in the graveyard to kind of loop around and possibly make another Ronin. Another dupe. Another totally awesome. Well, I'll get there eventually. Next up on the rest of the tools, we do play 2 Marincess Blue Slug. This is the first link monster you want to be going into, but obviously this is the one that does require specifically a level 4 or lower Marincess monster. If it's link summoned, you can target 1 Marincess monster in your graveyard, except itself, add it to your hand. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except water monsters. Only link summon this card once per turn. So if you normal summon your Seahorse, link Seahorse into this can then add the Seahorse back to your hand. You can special summon the Seahorse to the zone it points to. You then link into the link 2, and then it gets to target the 1500 or less in the graveyard and special summon it to a zone, and then you go straight into link 3. You've done all of that with your normal summon, and if you have a Toad in hand, or Swap Frog in hand, sorry, you then just get to special summon that by ditching a water monster, and off the go, the circle just repeats itself with you already having a link 3 on board. So if you do manage to have the trap or a trap trick, you can of course then start activating that from hand. Moving on swiftly, we do play 2 Mistar Boy. Obviously quite straightforward on this one. All your monsters are water, so you want to be giving them a nice 500 attack boost. Triple totally awesome because it is busted as heck. Obviously it can recycle itself, but why worry about recycling? You're totally awesome when you can recycle some of your other really, really cool water monsters in the deck back to your hand while negating stuff. It does have to tribute an aqua monster, so it obviously can't get rid of the Marincess. The Marincess, like I said, are more there for a link engine, and then you use the Toads and Frogs for everything else. Then for the remainder of the link monsters or link cards we've got is 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. Really, really good if you aren't locked into water, so maybe a second turn play, just to be able to banish 1 card your opponent controls. And again, the exact same thing for the Boral Sword, is you saw how easy it was to link climb. So the whole idea is your turn 1, you link climb and stall and negate your opponent out into the water monsters. And then the turn 2, without locking yourself into water monsters, you get to extend a little bit further into a Boral Sword, and a Boral Sword gets you game by shifting anything that you have in defense mode, mainly a Totally Awesome. So Totally Awesome swings for 22, then gets shifted to defense. If they try to negate anything, you go, cool, get rid of the Toad, off you go, and then Sword goes in for game. So there are a lot of options with this deck right now, and it is very, very powerful. One thing that I would say right now is, from the sneak peek prices that I've seen of some of these cards, they're not as high as I was expecting them. Like, Marbled Rock was going at about 25 quid, and I think it slowly started to come down a little bit. Now, let's not forget, the set only officially came out a couple of days ago, so there's still a lot of space and determination in the set to go around, and ratios. But I think the ratios will probably, not ratios will increase, but the supply will increase because everyone's hunting for the prismatics. So I think that since the prismatics were announced, more of the set was then bought than they expected to. That then means that the scarcity of these cards that we initially thought there was going to be there because the set was not so good has slightly increased a little bit, and it's not as hard to get some of these cards. I'd definitely say pick the Seahorse up at 5 quid each as they are right now, maybe about 10 quid. When we get the new support in Chaos Impact, they'll definitely go up a little bit more. You only possibly, at base minimum on a budget, need 1 coral and 1 marbled rock. So if you can pick them up cheap and easy in trades, then by all means do so. Otherwise, if you're just going to have to buy them outright, I would again only pay for one of each of them. I'll probably pay 15 for a marbled rock and probably 15 on the coral as well. Just to kind of get them, but like I said, it'll show you how easy the link climb actually is. So, I mean, again, this combo could probably be done a lot easier, but just a simple link climb combo can work straight away with the Marincess, just Seahorse in its hand. If you then add to your hand a Swap Frog and any kind of water monster, you can then extend into a totally awesome as well. But just for your simple link one, you normal summon the Seahorse. Seahorse then goes into your Slug. Slug then gets to target this, add it back to the hand. You then get to use this effect to special summon it to a zone it points to. You then get to link those two off and go into the Coral. Coral then gets to special summon this back. You then get to link off and go into your link 3. Now obviously if the link 3 pointed down left and right, it would just be stupid because you've just had a 1 card link 2 kind of thing. But it still serves its purpose that you've got a nice marbled rock. You can also use this effect to add back, oh, where are you? Add back your Seahorse. You've kind of looped this round, around and around. I'm just trying to check. Yeah, so you can only special summon it once per turn using its own effect. I was just checking, if it didn't, then it would be majorly busted because you just loop it. You just then add it back, special summon it again, and go on from there. But that's just a quick little just look of how easy it is. All you need to do is open up a Seahorse, and you've got Signet Mining to help you get there as well. Not to mention, if you open up a Swap Frog or any way of getting to a Swap Frog, you have additional ways to extend your board even further and cause your opponent more issues. This is definitely a deck to keep your eye on moving forward, especially with the powerful water plays that we do have with Mermaids and Atlanteans, and obviously Toads and Paleozoics. So there's definitely a lot to keep your eyes out on. Pick them up as cheap as you possibly can while you can, because when the new support comes out, they're probably going to be another force to be reckoned with. So definitely keep your eye out on them, and we'll see how the meta kind of develops from here on. Anyway, I hope you like this. I hope it gave you an insight or an understanding of the Marincess. If you do have any questions, put them in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you, and we can kind of go from there. But for now, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and until next time, guys, as always, happy dueling. What's up, YouTube? Dad here from YUGIOH. Thanks for watching that video. If you liked it, please hit that big thumbs up button in the bottom corner as well. And don't forget to hit the big red subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. Make sure you click that notification bell as well so you know every time one of our new videos goes up. Throughout the whole year of 2019, we're going to have more deck profiles, duels, and of course pack openings for you guys to watch and enjoy the entire year round. So stay tuned for more, and as always guys, happy dueling.